Hello. This is Mindset to Results podcast, and today our guest is Andrew Bull. He is a leadership and career coach, and he is author of the book Monsters of Team Performance. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Elena. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show today.
Thank you for coming, and I'm excited to hear from you. Tell us a little bit a story behind what you do, and then let's discuss leadership and what you would like to share today.
Okay, I'll try and tell a really quick story. So, I started out in the film industry. I spent 20 years there. It was during my time there I realized how important having a strong team was, because I worked in struggling teams, and that's when projects went wrong, when teams weren't strong. And then I realized actually leadership is a huge part of that. And that was something I learned more as I set up my own businesses. I realized having strong mindset and strong leadership is really important for success. And that inspired me to write my book, Monsters of Team Performance. But then how things evolved from that is I realized rather than just reaching and working with entire teams, how much I loved working with individuals and helping them unlock their power and purpose, which is something I've been able to do since I left the film industry.
Amazing. So, what is you think the biggest roadblock on the way to become confident and decisive leader?
Okay, I'm glad you've brought up confidence because not everyone has confidence. It ebbs and flows during our lives. There's been times when I haven't felt confident, and the idea of getting up and speaking in front of 200 people would have sent me running. But these days, I have very strong confidence. That's not something that I was naturally born with. It's something I had to work on. Reasons why people don't have confidence: perhaps they grow up thinking they're not confident and people encourage them to keep thinking that way, or they work in a negative environment that saps their confidence.
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you think can be the most important thing to focus on when leaders want to improve their leadership and they want to grow powerful teams in their organization?
Well, that's a great question. Confidence is hugely important because if you're not confident in what you can do, then you're never going to step up and follow through the actions that you should. So you might know that you need to get up and give an inspiring speech to your team today, or maybe it's not even that big. Maybe it's just the fact that a project's going wrong and you know that you need to step up and point it out and point a way towards a better way of doing it, a smarter, more productive way, which is going to save everyone a whole lot of energy, blood, sweat, and tears. So I think confidence is a good stepping stone to being a great leader. Being confident in yourself and what you say and the value that you bring is the number one thing to start with, and then we go from there into building strong teams.
And what are the other components for big, good, decisive leader?
What? Sorry. What are other attributes of a good decisive leader?
Yes. As you help people with leadership, so what you help them with? What are the other components of this leadership, becoming strong leadership formula?
Okay, all right. So I think we need to be able to bring people together. A lady I know recently passed away, and one of the things that people said about her is that she never had a bad word to say about anyone. And actually, I think there's a really important message inside of that. It shows us how leaders should help to lift people up, not be gossipers and people who bring people apart through their communications. They should bring people together. And I think that's such an important part of leadership, helping to bring your team together and create something greater than the individuals that are there.
Yeah, I like how uh, Earl Nightingale said about leadership that the true leader is not somebody who is proud of himself, but who is proud of people who want to work with him and follow him because he sets a great example. And he also said that there is a very powerful principle for leadership, and it is leave everyone with the impression of increase. And
Mhm.
even only this one principle the leaders will implement, they will see how their communication and relations with the team and how their effectiveness and productiveness even go up. What do you
That's
think about this?
That's such an excellent point. We need to create optimistic teams who believe that they, as individuals and as a whole, are capable of greatness and greater things than they are doing right now. So, definitely, I think a leader's job is to craft that vision for individuals and the team. And I also agree with you. A leader provides the stage for other people to shine and be them their best selves. That is what great leadership is all about. It's not me, me, me. It's we.
Yeah, exactly. So let's now discuss about importance of making decision fast. As
Okay.
successful leaders, yes, successful leaders, one of the components of their success is making decision fast based on what they have now. Let's discuss about this a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we have to work with the facts that are in front of us. It's good to. There's an interesting tension point here. We have to work with the facts that are in front of us, but we should also remain curious for a while and try and remain curious for a little while longer. But yes, if we don't want to be perfectionists who procrastinate and never make a decision, sooner or later we need to make a decision. What I think the best kind of decision to make is a little decision to begin with. Test things out. So make a bold little decision. You know, you think maybe your business is setting up a new marketing campaign and you think Facebook might be the place for you to run adverts. Try it. Run a small test, see if it works. Don't fret and worry for weeks and months. Before you decide to do something, test and gather evidence from the real world.
Yeah, and also I think that it is important to understand the process in which making decision plays a huge role, because
Mhm.
indecision is procrastination. So if for some reason we don't make decision, it means that we make indecision, right? It can be because of lack of information, or it can be because of fear, if it will not work, or what if I fail. It also can be because of some doubts in ourselves, that maybe we are not enough to do that. So when we understand how success is built, it all starts from decision. And when we make decision, we flip our brain to different frequency because we are already in the process. And then we think how to start doing things because we already jumped in the pool, and then we have to swim. We have to move our hands and legs, right? And if we don't make decision, it means that we are still watching how other people swim. And indecision cause procrastination, and then procrastination cause more self-doubt and frustration because things don't are not taken care of, and there is no results.
That's great wisdom. I love what you said there. You're right. Indecision can be painful and just leave us not making any progress like we should. Yeah. I think sometimes it helps to simplify what's in front of us. Um, Life is full of complexity. So I think if we can strip away and really focus on what's really important to us, that can help us make those decisions. But I agree with you. Like as a leader, being able to make strong, positive decisions and not just sit on the fence, it's vital.
Yeah, so what else would you like to share with people who really want to improve their leadership and build powerful teams?
Okay. I think we need to be more intentional about how we show up as leaders. Too often, we're like, for example, I could go, "Oh, I'm Andrew. This is just how I am. I'm going to turn up like this all the time in every context, in every situation, because this is how I am." But in reality, if we want to grow as leaders and perform as our best self in different contexts, we have to be more intentional about that. We have to be, I'm going to be strong, powerful version of myself when I'm doing, for example, a speech on a stage. And then if I'm having a quite an empathetic conversation with someone, it's going to be a different version of myself turning up. It doesn't have to be the same version of Andrew turning up in all these contexts. So be intent, but be flexible with that intention as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Would you think how is important to have a big goal for leader,
Oh,
personal and professional?
tremendously important. I think we need exciting goals. I like to set something I call domino goals. These kind of goals that can be really transformative. So um, sometimes we just focus on goals that are too small and they're not really exciting. So we kind of run out of steam chasing after them, and or we complete them and we wonder, why did I do that anyway? When we do something big and transformative, for example, publish a book, um, then that can create a cascade of other wins in our life and business. So I think try and find those domino goals and set those big, exciting domino goals.
Yeah, and one of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, great.
And yes, and from that book, I understood that having the big goal, which you don't know even how to achieve, but something that you really want, and it relates to something that you love to do, and it has big meaning for you, why you want to achieve it. This is what leaders need because they have to show up in the higher version of themselves. And having the big goal helps them to visualize and see that image where they are going. And that image should be big enough and strong enough to make them in that inspired state, that they wake up every day and they inspired by their vision. And this is how they show up. And this is how they impact other people because they lead by example. They are in great energy state. They are growing every day because their goal is so big. And this is how other people get also inspired by even just being in their energy. And also it helps them to think big and uh, set big goals in their career and personal life.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's so important to have those inspiring visions of what we could achieve in the future for us and for our teams. So yeah, that's fantastic advice. And I would add a little bit to that by saying um, it doesn't like I would say have a vision, but then work back from there. Work back from there and have a midway objective, which seems more realistic, which can move you there. So um, you want things to be actionable. If they're, it's great to have those big high level visions, but attach it to some actionable steps as well. So that means you stay motivated because you feel like you're making progress towards that goal, but you're still excited and inspired, as you say, by the bigger goal.
Yes, it is very important what you said. It is like GPS. We have the goal and we set in our GPS our location now and our destination. And when we drive to the destination, we don't need to see all the map, right? And we don't see all the road ahead. We just focus on the first. right? And
Hmm.
then when we get there, we again focus on that first and focusing on steps, but having that big vision helps us to achieve those mid goals. And also important to acknowledge ourselves for achieving those steps. And this is what I noticed when I speak with entrepreneurs and CEOs. Many of them don't do that. They have big goal and they forget about acknowledging themselves, about being grateful for what they already done and how great they are, how bright they are. And some fall in this um, self self beating process that they just think, oh, I didn't do enough, I had to do more. And that's why I would like to address this, that it is important to have big goal and also is important to acknowledge every day's wins and be
Hmm.
proud of yourself and grateful that you did this today. And even if you didn't do something that you planned today, you just can put it for in your list to do for next day. And this inspiration will keep you moving towards your big goal.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree because it is really important to appreciate and acknowledge the progress we've made. I always think of it as being like a mountain climber. That if you're just facing towards the mountain and towards the peak, sometimes you can lose track of the peak. You can't quite see it. Perhaps it's become a bit foggy for a moment, and the way ahead of you can be really challenging. Where can I get a grip? That seems too tough, and maybe you lose confidence for a moment. If you turn around and look behind you and see how far you've climbed up the mountain already, then you realize how capable you are and how good a climber you already are. And it inspires you to keep going, and fires you up to know that you can be that climber and get to the top.
Yes, and also it is good to be a good follower. So, because leaders they need to have role models, right? They should have mentors, somebody who sees their potential and shows them the way how they can grow. And having the role model helps them to grow and become that role model for other people who they have in their team and who work with them.
Yes, yes. No, role models are so powerful and so underestimated, in their impact. I mean, each of us can influence 8,000 people a day through the social contagion effect. It means that influence ripples out. If I get on the bus and have a positive conversation with someone, then when they get off the bus, they can have that positive conversation with somewhere else in their office, and then they're on a Zoom call having a positive conversation with someone in Japan. And each of us meet over 20 people a day probably. And so once you do the multiplication, it's 8,000 people a day that we can influence through our positive role modeling and interaction. So yeah, let's all be positive role models.
Yeah, exactly. What would you suggest to people who feel that they are meant to be more and they want to achieve more and they do many things, but it feels that they don't get to desired results and they get overwhelmed and stressed, maybe have anxiety and even sometimes feel depressed?
Okay, I think first of all, we need to be realistic about how long growth can take sometimes. It's always the big dreams of, or we see, examples of success on TV, social media, and we see those get rich quick stories, and they're captivating. Who doesn't want to become a millionaire overnight? Um, but the reality is, most lottery winners lose their money. So actually, one positive thing to take away from this is if it's taken a while for you to be successful, you're actually learning skills which will help you sustain your success for longer and keep your winnings. And it'll probably make you a better person as well. So the lessons that you're going through right now and the challenges you're going through right now can be fueling your resilience, making you more empathetic. And if you journal and learn from your mistakes, you will over time improve and make progress up that mountain.
Yes, exactly. Learning from mistake is so powerful. And now it came to my mind another my favorite book, which is U Squared, and it is relates to what you just said, that we have to sometimes we have just to make pause and study ourselves and think what we do and why we get these results, because there should be certain patterns of our behavior and actions that cause us these results, and the only way to get different results is to look inside of us and see what eh, I do to get these results, how I think that I create these results, how I feel, what are my thoughts every day. Because as my mentor was Bob Proctor, so I'm very uh, deeply understanding this process, how these paradigms, like those programs in our subconscious mind, can create our results. And if people are not aware of these processes, because we have the same thoughts every day, and thoughts cause feelings, and feelings cause actions, and actions cause results. So if we find that we are not happy with our results, we should go back to our thoughts and start being aware of those thoughts, habits, those patterns which repeat every day, and only then we can come out of that loop. What do you think?
I think that's definitely one way to do it. I agree. What we think, our cognitions, all those sparks that are going off in our mind, they hugely influence what we do and therefore our results. And so, self awareness, as you say, is really important. Which is why I encourage people to journal and keep track of what they're achieving on a day to day basis, but also ask themselves some questions like, why did this outcome happen today? What could I have done better? What would I do next time? How can I be more empowered? And what would be what how can I simplify things and move towards my big goal? I think we should all be asking these questions of ourselves. The more we ask these questions of ourselves, the more we learn and the more we can move forward.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes we just have to change our perception and look at things different. Like it is not always that we can achieve that result just pushing harder. Like some people think I just have to do harder, but it doesn't make any sense to do something harder that doesn't work.
Hmm.
Sometimes we just need to stop and just think how I can do it in the effortless way, because usually success is built not just by doing harder things which don't work. It can be totally different approach. And I like in this book is like Bryce Pritchard told that he was looking at the fly which was trying to go out from the room through the closed window, and it just was hitting itself to the window. And just 1 meter on the front, on the right, there was the open door. And he was looking at that fly and thinking, why fly is just killing itself, just pushing hard itself to that closed window, instead of just turning to the right, and it would take you like 2 seconds, and it could easily go out, right? And some people are the same. They just focused on something, and because we have our behavior is like 90% habitual behavior, and people do things even before they think, And in many cases, they just continue doing these things which don't work and pushing themselves through that closed window. And that is why they get overwhelmed and burned out. And if they just take the like step back and look around and see what can be different ways to get to my goal.
I agree. We do need to take that step back and look at alternative routes forward. And sometimes I think people wait for a door to be opened for them before they can give themselves permission to go forward and be successful. And sometimes people aren't going to open those doors for you. And when that happens, you need to punch your own hole in the wall and find a way through. But yes, let's do it the simplest way. Let's not spin our wheels, waste time on complicated approaches that don't move us forward, which is too easy to do, isn't it? It's too easy to be full of busyness and not make progress. And talking of new perspectives and doing things differently, one of the things that I do with my coaches is encourage them to experiment. We go into like a leadership lab where they get to experiment with who they are and how they approach things. And this is really transformative. It really gets them to get those fresh eyes on who they are and how they approach things. And so I agree with you. I think it's all important doing that.
Yes, exactly. So let's speak now about attitude and how important is that to have the right attitude towards the goals, towards lives, towards themselves, and also towards failure.
Oh, everything. This Greek philosopher, I'm going to say his name incorrectly now, but I think it's Hercules. I'm going to say it badly. He said, "Character is destiny," and I think we can closely link character to attitude. And I think the way that we approach things greatly determines our success at things. If we walk around with a loser's limp, which is what Zig Ziglar termed it, we walk around like we've already lost. Well, we've already lost. So the way that we approach things, it massively determines our results and our success and our relationships with others. Do we jump onto meetings with other people positive, prepared to collaborate and make things happen, or do we jump onto our meetings to go into combat and to come away winning and the other person losing? Our attitude greatly determines our results.
Yes, again, how Earl Nightingale said that our attitude towards the life determines life attitude towards us.
Hmm. Yes, yes. It's the energy in, energy out principle. I believe life is like an alchemy. You can only get out of it what you put in. So if you're putting out bad energy and bad vibes into the world, then what can we really expect to get back from life? You have to invest positivity, attention in the right places, and a positive attitude to get back that from other people. It's like when I sit down with my partner later, if she comes home from work and I'm full of negativity, why should I expect anything less from her? So we have to lead with positivity, and that's an important part of leadership, being the one who leads with a positive attitude. We have to expect the best, provide the best, and then act out the best as role models as well.
Yes, amazing. Yes, there is the law of attraction, and it is secondary law, and the primary law is the law of vibration. It means that everything vibrates, everything is energy, and also we are energy. And we receive this universal power, like energy, which goes to us and through us, and it is neutral. And by our thoughts, we give this energy the meaning, we give the energy the uh, forms, like material forms. Everything is created twice. Initially it was created in the mind, and then it creates physical world, right? So our thoughts have a very big power, and literally it is like our subconscious mind, like a soil. Whatever we put in that soil, it is neutral, it is immoral, so it doesn't care. If we put poison, it will grow as poison. If we put good fruits, it will vegetables, it will grow as vegetables, right? And it is so important to be observant about and aware about our thoughts, because the thoughts which we choose will create that energy, and people will feel that energy even earlier than you start speaking, because communication happens at that subconscious level. And there is I think you had in such situation, like you could like meet person and just speaking with him like few minutes, you feel like you want to run. Yeah, like you feel it is just a toxic person, that you feel at energy level, you just drop energy and you have to run to recover. And other people that they just walk in the room and it is like feels like the light came to the room, that you just feel so uplifted, they smile, they have good energy. Yeah, so it is so important what you mentioned now about this great attitude towards yourself, towards life, and towards people.
Yeah, 100%. And I second what you say about how our mind shapes things. You know, our mind is plastable. It actually the mind actually changes, and we can craft new pathways in our mind. This is how addiction, for example, comes about, because when we do something often enough, then our mind crafts a new pathway, and it becomes easier for us to do that thing, which is why it's so difficult to break habits. So you know, let's try not to set bad ones in the first place. But that just shows how powerful the mind is, and that's just on the inside. Our thoughts influence in our mind, and then it just ripples out into the universe. So yeah, I agree.
Yes, let's speak about limiting beliefs. Everybody have limiting beliefs. And what do you think about importance to identifying those limiting beliefs and replacing them with empowering for leaders?
Oh, I think it's hugely important, and I think this kind of links back to what we were just saying about what we think influencing our results. I think we need to change. In fact, I'm convinced we need to change the words that we use and the self-talk that we have inside of our mind. For example, we might say, "Oh, I'm in my comfort zone," and I would actually challenge something like believing that it's okay, I'm in my comfort zone, and think actually I'm in my stuck swamp would be a better way of looking at things. Because when we positively put a shine on things which aren't necessarily positive, I think that also limits us. And so when we look at things with we talk about things in a different way, we start to break through those beliefs, and we start to create new possibilities. And yeah, too many lots of people have suffer from imposter syndrome and limiting beliefs, and these are definitely things that we need to take on. Again, this is why journaling is so powerful.
Yes, yes. Identifying them and replacing them. So to know what is that thought, because we have every day, like from 4 to 8, some some limiting ideas. We
Hmm.
just occupy our mind, and they come even before we want to think about something and make decision. They already block us back. So it is important to identify and work every day on one. Identify what is the thought that you repeatedly know every day,
Hmm.
and create the outer response for that, and become aware like every time when this thought comes, immediately to replace it with that outer response, that empowering belief. And through repetition, when we become conscious about this is how this replacement happens, because we cannot just cut limiting belief and say, okay, from today I'm not going to think about this. It just will not happen. The only way to get rid of them is to replace them with the new one. So when we
Hmm.
put energy to the new one, and immediately we know what we will replace, and we work every day on a new one till we see that we don't have it anymore and we replaced it. This is how we can work and focus on empowering things about ourselves, and that will not, those limiting beliefs uh, will not sabotage us and will not just keep us stuck the same place.
Yes, I agree. It comes back to being intentional again, doesn't it? And not just accepting the way things are. And I think that's the first place, just being like, I want to be intentional about who I am and how I'm turning up in this moment. And I'm going to challenge myself more. So, for example, if I go to the supermarket and there's a tricky place to park, perhaps there's a limiting belief that goes, "Oh, Andrew, you can't manage that parking in that place. It's too tight." But then we have to be intentional, as you say, about bringing it in place, that positive belief of Andrew is a good driver and can park in that spot, and then just try and do it. And if we do it often enough, of course, we'll get better at the skill of parking, and that belief will start to stick in place as well. This is also, though, why having a coach or even a trusted friend is a really good thing to have. Although it's hard to do with friends. On the whole, this is why a coach can be really helpful, because a coach can challenge you around your limited beliefs, because you may not even know you have limited beliefs, and it's not until a coach says, "Hey, why do you think that? What's going on here? What's making you think that you're not capable of this? What is the reality?" That's when a coach can be really helpful and in revealing that belief and then helping us work through them.
Yes, exactly, because people are somehow tracked in that loop, the same thoughts, the same actions, the same results, and they even are not aware that they have those thoughts and reactions, and they just continue being in that, I would say, mental prison, because
Mhm.
they just have those thoughts. And the coach or mentor is the one who can see their potential and see where they are trapped, and how to help them to get out and start thinking different thoughts and start thinking who they can become. Because our goals are not just for us to get something new, our
Mhm.
goals are for us to grow and becoming that person who has that. But we have to become that person today in order to start thinking, feeling, and acting as that person to have that results.
100%. When we're looking for the opportunity to grow and improve the life we're experiencing, the first place we need to start is by looking inside ourselves. And what you got me thinking about was this idea of someone driving down the motorway and they're so blinkered that all they can see is one lane in front of them. They're like, this is the road. This is the road that I go on. And because they've got those limiting beliefs, they can't see that there's another road here they could go on, which could take them to places faster, to different places, could connect them with new people. Um, and I think it's so important for us to understand that often we're capable of much more than we realize. And it's not until we step back and really go, oh my gosh, why am I thinking this? Why am I limiting myself? There's all these extraordinary possibilities in front of me. If only I open my mind up to thinking differently, to believing differently, and acting differently.
Yes, yes, exactly. Amazing. And to tell us a little bit about your book, your author of the book, Monsters of Team Performance. It is so interesting title.
Okay,
Uh,
yes, cool. I will show it up for those who are watching the video. Um, it's a book that I was inspired to write because I've worked in lots of teams that weren't working as they should. I've worked in winning teams as well that have won awards and so on. But I've experienced a lot of the monsters of team performance. Now, I think it's easy to point fingers when a team is not functioning like it should, and we can go, oh, the reason it's not working well is because Wendy is terrible or Dave is doing a terrible job. But that's really unhelpful because most of the time what's driving negative team performance is the overall culture or some drivers and principles and values around the business which are driving the monsters and feeding the monsters, right? Feeding those monsters and making them big and powerful. So the book was created to tell people in a fun and gettable way what those monsters can be inside your business. For example, the blame blob. So it's a really fun way to explore that and get it across with your team. And then it gives you ways of actually defeating those monsters and getting them outside of your organization.
Yes, it is important. Yes. And I heard recently, like, that is like HR before they were hiring people based on their skills, but now it is tendency to hire people based on who they are, right? Like about their values and characters that they have, that they will be the people in the team who can inspire and collaborate and celebrate others' wins.
I think that's such a positive move that we're seeing from the business world, because a lot of skills can be taught, and the reality is most of us are closer in capability than we might like to admit sometimes. We might think if we're really good at something, oh, I'm really good at this. No one else could be possibly be as amazing as me. But with most things, people can get to a reasonable level. And so actually attitude, whereas attitude, it is not something you can necessarily hire. If people aren't already in a positive, good place, you can't necessarily bring them into the business and give them a positive attitude. The want and desire has to come from within, whereas you can give them the skills. So there's a lot of logic to the strategy you've laid out.
Yes, yes. Again, we come back to the energy, right? Like what energy person brings. Because even if he has like the best skills, but if he's toxic and he's negative, so it will cause so much damage to the company and environment and relations within, and it will not be good decision to have such person in the team.
Yes, 100%. I also think, though, that organizations need to do a better job of remaining curious about people and really getting to know people. One of the dangers now, a little bit that concerns me with AI is that we're moving to this world where you just scan a CV and people just get dismissed out of hand without really getting to know or understand their potential. I think we should all remain curious for longer when we meet people and just see what their attitude and potential could be for that little bit longer.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think that important when when we looking for people for our team, it is important to find people who really love what they do. Yes, that not person that just looking for job because he has to pay the bills or whatever, but the person who really does the job that is in according of his profile. I mean, according to his power, according to his strength, what is strong with, right? So that it when people do what they really love to do, what they're good at, they come naturally to that energy and joyful and happiness because they're like fish in the ocean, like they swim, they like can do so many things, and they don't feel like they have to climb the tree. Right? So that having people doing things that they love to do, being at their place, and this is also so important.
I agree. I think it also comes down to the environment as well. People, once you've satisfied the basic needs for food, shelter, and other things that I won't mention, people are looking for growth, autonomy, and connection. So, organizations also need to look at providing those if they want people to flourish and stay within the business. And I think this is possible in all different kinds of roles. I think too often we accept the way things are. We're like, oh, it's just it's what I'm trying to say is it takes two to tango. If we want the employee to be excited and in love with the job, then I think companies also need to make lovable jobs as well.
Yes, environment is the key where people feel heard, understood, appreciated. And so in this environment, people will be more happy to do what they do better way when they are appreciated and encouraged and heard.
Yes, yes, and heard, and hearing people is such an important skill, isn't it? I think listening is a really under valued leadership skill. It's a skill that can build bridges between people. It's a skill that can make people feel valued and like their time inside an organization has meaning, and they're not just there to fill a seat. It can creates that connection which we need for human flourishing. And also, if you're a leader, if you hear other people out first, they're more likely to hear you out. So there's a lot of good reasons for being a good listener.
Yes, yes, amazing. And I liked how you said to create. Yes, that if people have this attitude that instead of compete, they can create. It just this little shift in attitude will help them to create powerful teams and something that didn't exist before.
Yes, 100%. I think people are inclined, they want to work together. Part of what limits us, I suppose, is perhaps some old parts of our DNA, especially the masculine DNA, which encourages us more to compete and be combative. Whereas that's not necessarily helpful in today's world. We've got so many complex projects and goals that we need to achieve as a society and as teams. We need to collaborate more and work together more. So we need to push down that combative side and ramp up the community collaboration side.
Yes, I think that it will help if we focus on the value which we can provide. So we focus on other people, what we can give, and how we can create the best environment, how we can create the best version of ourselves. And when we are in that giving mode and thinking about people and the value which we bring to the world, it will help to shift that attitude from competing to create and
Yeah,
focus all our energy to that.
yeah, I'd create. Yeah, creating value is definitely a great approach, and I like to try and make people become awesome. This is one of my approaches, that I want to help people really unlock who they are. I do this in my coaching and in other areas of my life. I'm a scout leader as well. I want to help them unlock their potential because I think there's some smart reasons for doing this. One, because of course it's just the right thing to do. Two, because you'll actually feel better about yourself when you help other people. It's good for our own well-being and happiness and contentedness. And three, when you help people become awesome, they tell people about that. They're like, "Oh, Andrew helped me become a really positive, confident leader." What's so everyone wins in the end.
Yes, yes, exactly. To be in that energy also, I think helps when leaders set time for themselves, set time to relax, do something that really brings them joy. Yes, just to find time for to love themselves and do something that really uh, gives them that feeling of happiness and satisfaction and doing something that they love to do. It should be also part of life because some leaders, as we started conversation, like they are so driven and they're ambitious and they want to do so much that they forget about this part of life. So it is good to have harmony, yes, between business goals and being that ambitious, driven entrepreneur, business owner, and also not forgetting about putting block some time in your schedule to just to be for yourself, to be with loved ones, be in good energy, do something that you really love to do, to get that stress down and be relaxed. Because in many cases, we can do much more when we are relaxed in the beautiful state than when we are stressed and overwhelmed.
I agree. I agree. Getting that life harmony is so important. We don't want to mortgage today for tomorrow. We don't want to spend so much time focused on these big, exciting goals, which would be great to achieve, but they might not happen. They might not happen. We don't want to mortgage our whole life for that future goal and never live for today. So I think there is a lot to be said about being present in the moment, for ourselves, for our family, and so on. And this is actually part of what fueled me to move away from the film industry as well, because I worked such long, crazy hours, and I wasn't able to always be present and enjoy life and have a healthy way of living.
Yes, amazing. You read my thoughts. Yeah, be present today because interesting fact that if we are lucky to live till 80, we have only 4,000 weeks.
Wow.
We don't have agreement for 500 years or 600 years. That's why it is important to be present and enjoy life every moment because every day is a gift. And if we have this attitude of gratitude and enjoy life, so we are in good state, in good energy, this will help us to achieve our goals and also live and thrive.
100%. I agree. We need to value the moments that we have, those little bits of beauty in everyday life, going for a walk with our family round the block, taking some time to go and swim in the pool and just feel what it feels like to be alive. Let's not throw them all away for some future crazy dream that may or may not happen. Let's enjoy and appreciate all our days.
Yes, amazing. Thank you, Andrew. So, I want to ask you before we finish this conversation. It was really valuable. We discussed so many things. If there would be advice which you would like to give to people who listening to us, if it would be one thing that will help them to improve their leadership and thrive in life, what would that be?
I think give yourself permission to experiment more and be more creative with who you are and how you lead, and let that power flow into you. That power to be more than you think you can be right now. Let it flow into you by being more open, more creative, and exploring more who you could be.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It was a great episode today, and I know that many people who listen to it will learn a lot from this conversation. Thank you for being with us today, and see you again.
Thank you, Eleanor.